Shalom, family. I hope you're all doing well. If you weren't here in my first live, Happy New Year to everybody. And we're going to talk about DEI. You know, when Trump came into office, that was one of his missions were to do everything to diminish or get rid of our history. He wants the only one propped up in here are white males, white history, white males, and everybody else get pushed down and not seen. That was his goal. So we saw what Donald Trump did, and Donald Trump is very open about using DEI as a slur. That's what he does. He hides his anti-blackness behind DEI, and it is just nothing but using it in a very insulting way. So, what was his mission? To get our books out of the schools, not teach any Black history, get Black author books out of libraries. They already did all of this, by the way. Get slavery, try to water it down in the museums or get rid of it altogether. Get rid of it from the National Archive. He wants the slavery wiped out because the white kids are going to feel a certain way. No, it ain't the white kids, it's the white adults that is really the big problem. It's not the children, it's not them at all. Because you don't want your children to be influenced and start feeling a certain way about the group they're in. That's what you don't want. So you're trying to put it like these poor kids. It's not the kids, it's the grown-ups. You're not fooling nobody with that crap, Donald Trump. It's people like you. It's not children. And then he took down all of the monuments that were dedicated to slavery. He took down the monuments that were dedicated to Black soldiers that served in World War One, World War Two. So any of their achievements, he wiped all out worldwide, even where they were commemorated, even in locations in Europe. They had monuments to Black soldiers because of the work they did. And Donald Trump took all of that up. Okay. That is nothing but racism, y'all. That's racism. If you are attacking one group, but any of your achievements, anything some white soldier did, anything some white person did that's on a federal monument, that gets to stay. But anything that was achieved by Black soldiers, that all must go. That's nothing but racism, Donald Trump. And you think you're hiding your racism behind DEI. You know what? Y'all ain't clever at all. You ain't clever at all. You know how many people have caught on to that? You're not fooling nobody with that. You're all anti-Black. This government has always been anti-Black. But you found DEI and now you all are latching onto it like, oh, we didn't say N word, we said DEI. It's the same damn thing. The way y'all say it, it's the same thing. So at the end of the day, it just proves again, which we already knew, the right, because y'all the biggest ones running around screaming woke and DEI. You're a bunch of racists. And that's why it makes me laugh election time. Here y'all come. I don't know why more black people don't vote with the right. Because you're a bunch of racists, just like the ones on the left. That's why. And and Donald Trump was really starting with the DEI and CRT stuff in his first term. He was just getting started then. And when he got in the second time, he went full blown. Okay, he just went full blown. And like I said, the most of the stuff that had to go were from our community. Artifacts and pictures and everything had to go. He didn't even want MLK in the museum. So, y'all, at the end of the day, we always said this government is racism. It is racist. They've practiced racism for centuries. and they continue to do so. And now Donald Trump is practicing it. So we're going to just look at some people and they're going to give their opinions on this. And everybody sees it crystal clear. So Donald Trump, you know what? And now every time somebody melanated get hired on a job, oh, it's DEI. Oh, it's DEI. No, it isn't. And let's just make one thing clear. All white workers are not good workers. Some of y'all do good work, but many of you are on these jobs and y'all are doing barely adequate work. I worked with y'all. Many of us in our community worked with you. Y'all are not all the best workers. You are not all the most qualified either. I've seen many of you get on jobs, and I could clearly tell you lied on your resume because you don't know what anything is. I had one that said she had all this experience in IT, right? So, y'all, they hired her. Girlfriend barely knew how to use a computer. Yeah, in fact, her first day on the job, somebody had to turn the damn computer on for her. But according to her, she had all these years of experience in IT. And I was like, it's clear she lied on her resume. She wasn't telling the truth. Y'all, she was gone in like 3 weeks. She couldn't handle, she didn't know what anybody was talking about. When people told her to do things that should have been basic, she didn't know how to do it. That's why I'm like, number one, y'all lie a lot on your resumes. Y'all lie a lot about your degrees. And let's not forget, they were the biggest ones in Asians in the college cheating scandal. So they'll put degrees down on resumes they don't even have. So they do this just to try to leapfrog into good positions, good paying positions that they clearly don't belong in. I used to watch even some of the ones that been there longer than me. I remember when I started the job, I was doing real well. I was accelerating. Do you know some of the ones that were there for a year, 2 years, 3 years? They used to come and ask me questions, and they've been there for a couple of years more than I was. Yes, that, and I know many of you that's happened to you too. You just showed up on the job just because you can learn it and pick up on it quick. They're all of a sudden coming to you asking your opinion about this, your how would you do that, or how do you think this work or that. Yeah, that was happening to me. So when you try to act like we are all DEI hires, that's very disingenuous because at the end of the day, many of you are in positions you really shouldn't be in. Look at Donald Trump's administration. He got the worst administration of all times. He got all kinds of Cash Patel, Pete Hegseth, all right, Christy Noam. I mean, look at all these people. Look at all these people he got in there, and look at how poorly ran his administration is. Donald Trump is the worst president of all time. Even he sounds ridiculous. You know what Donald Trump sounds like when he opens his mouth? Donald Trump sounds like he didn't make it past the fifth grade. He's terrible at articulating himself. He sounds like somebody that didn't get past elementary school. Listen every time he gets in front of the camera trying to boast about himself. I did the best blah blah of all times, better than every president. That sounds like something a kid would say. I got the best this, better than all the presidents. That's how he talks. He sounds like somebody that didn't get past elementary school. Now you can sit here talking about y'all sound this and y'all sound that. Yeah, you know what? We're all different. But one thing I can say, the majority of black workers I have been around on jobs were excellent. And many of you were, some were good and some were very mediocre. Some of y'all didn't work at all. I remember back in the day when they would give cigarette breaks, these smokers would take so many breaks throughout the day, they were hardly at their seat. The breaks would be like 10, 15 minutes. They'd be outside smoking cigarettes and talking for almost a half hour. I watched them. And then when lunch would come, because a couple of white people I worked with got in trouble. They'll go to lunch and drink liquor and then come back to the office and work. And you could smell the liquor on them, right? And one time, a group of them went out. They had lunch and drinks. They were out for an hour and a half. Lunch was only 1 hour. They went out and stayed out an hour and a half. So when you try to act like white people are doing great work and y'all ain't doing nothing wrong on these jobs, that's very disingenuous. That's very disingenuous. I worked with y'all. I worked with you. I worked with some of them, y'all, that didn't come to work. They would call out 2, 3 times a week and still get a full paycheck until eventually the company gets tired of it and then eventually let them go. hmm Oh, I got to tell you about that. There was a white girl in our office, and people suspected that she had a drug habit. One day, she came to me to ask a question. She leaned over my desk, and the cocaine was all around her damn nose, and she didn't even know it. She didn't know it. And so I looked at her and I said, "Did you look in the mirror at yourself?" And she says, "What?" I said, "Go look. I'm not going to tell you. Go look in the mirror." She went and looked in the mirror. Y'all, the powder was above her lip. The powder was around her nostrils. And it was clear she went in the bathroom snorting and then came back out. And she didn't even know she had the powder on her, on herself, on her face. Yeah. Oh no, this chick had it on both nostrils and with some powder right above her upper lip. Cocaine. So she was snorting on the job. So white people, you ain't coming to me trying to act like you are the best at everything. You are the best in the office. You are the best at doing your jobs. You are the best of the best. You ain't coming to me with that crap because I know better. I know better. I know what I saw when I was on those jobs, and y'all were not the best workers. Some of you were, and many of you were not. Okay. So when you try to use DEI like all of us are ineligible, that's downright laughable. You better look at your damn work habits because they're more than likely they're not up to par. So anyway, y'all. Anyway, but you know what? They do that. I worked with a white woman. Her name was Janice. Janice would always, all day long, she would walk around with this thermos in her hand all day long. And I would know she was drunk because I would watch the way she would blink her eyes. And I knew she was lit, right? One day, she put her thermos down and left it. I unscrewed the cap. That thing was filled to the top with liquor. And I said, that's why she walks around with this damn thermos all day and won't let it go. Like she walking around with a damn baby bottle. She was walking around with that thermos. And when I say she walked around, I just thought it was weird. You need to walk around with a thermos all day? She did. Yeah, she did because the damn thing was filled with liquor. Okay. So y'all can miss me with that you're all qualified and we're not. You can miss me with that bullshit. You can miss me all the way. No, she used to drink a lot of vodka, and it smelled like vodka. It smelled like vodka. That's what it smelled like to me. And she would have a thermos and have the thermos filled all the way to the top with this, and she would be walking around sipping on it all day. One day, she was teaching a training lesson. Her ass was so lit and drunk, she passed out. She literally was standing there teaching and passed out on the floor because she was drunk. She was drunk. That's why. So, no, like I said, y'all can miss me with that. You're qualified and we're not. You can miss us with the whole thing. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And Donald Trump, thank you for not putting us in your cabinet. You only put one guy in HUD, and we don't claim him. He's a big time coon. We don't claim him. But thank you for not putting us in your cabinet, Donald Trump, because when the shit hits the fan, we won't get blamed for anything, but people like you will get blamed for everything. All praises to the Most High for your racism. Thank you. All right, y'all, give me a one if you can see my screen. Who, Janice, the one that was walking around with the thermos all day? Eventually, yes, but they gave her multiple chances. The company used to have um, a program. If you had a drug or alcohol problem, they would put you through rehab. They put her through rehab probably about 3, 4 times, but she could not, stay off of alcohol. She couldn't do it. And one day she stumbled around the office with her thermos, and they pulled her in the office and they fired her. She did get fired eventually, but they gave her multiple chances before they let her go. Thank you, everybody.
DEI hire means the N word. Let's stop beating around the bush. Let's stop talking in riddles. Let's stop being cowards. When you proclaim that so and so is a DEI hire, you're basically using a racial slur. You're saying, without really saying, that this person is somehow lesser because of their skin color.
You're a DEI hire. You're a DEI hire, and you're a racist. And you're a misogynist. People will go on and on about DEI, but they don't even know what it means. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. These in principles and in application are not bad things. And it's not people who are undeserving getting these spots because of DEI. No one undeserving, specifically minorities, are getting these spots and taking it away from deserving white people. That's not what happens. It's all deserving people, and some undeserving people. But people only say DEI hire when it comes to a brown person, a black person, a woman, because they don't want to see these people in the workplace. Because they think that a white man generally is the deserving candidate for everything, because how could a brown person be deserving? So if you hear someone calling someone a DEI hire, feel free to call them a racist. Like I said in another video, racists, if you want to be racist, stick to your guns. Don't be afraid to call someone a racist.
Yes, and I just wanted to elaborate a little more on how fully absurd this is and to follow the lead of Black creators that I've seen, urging us to recognize what is going on for what it is. DEI is being used as the new racial slur for Black people. People who are engaging in this do not care how uninformed and unrealistic their accusations are. They are just making the accusation to incite anger, ridicule, and panic in the people that they have influence over. Because we know that the ship lost power, and that's what caused the collision. That is not something that port commissioners, much less the mayor, have control over or the ability to prevent. Yet the Young Conservative Federation and Representative Phil Lyman, who I believe is also running for governor of Utah, wasted no time blaming DEI because of Port Commissioner Corinthia Barber. But Barber is just one of 6 port commissioners. She is one of 2 black commissioners. She is one of 2 women. Half of the port commissioners are old white men, yet they attacked the one black woman. And they're blaming DEI for Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, who won his mayoral election decisively with over 70% of the vote in a majority black city. So if they would blame DEI for an elected official, they're not even trying to hide the fact that what they're really saying is they do not believe that black people should be in positions of power or leadership anywhere under any circumstances. And we routinely see this completely unoriginal, almost zombie-like flipping around of anything that even remotely sounds like progress into a dog whistle. They co-opted DEI into a dog whistle. They co-opted woke into a dog whistle. And it extends beyond language. Because if you look at the tactics that lawyers like Edward Bloom used to attack affirmative action that are currently being used to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools and in the workplace, they are using tactics that were developed by Black Americans to fight for their civil rights to now chip away at them.
The people out there with the most shit to say about DEI do not know what DEI means, nor do they know what it stands for.
Oh my God. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. If someone is using DEI as a pejorative, as a derogatory term, as an insult, just use a slur and be done with it already. Like, that is the most thinly veiled, transparent dog whistle in a generation at least. I promise they are not talking about white women when they use it that way. Guarantee they're not talking about white men with neurological differences like myself when they use that phrase in the pejorative. Hell, I'm even willing to bet they're not even talking about white gay people. They are talking about people of color. Certainly the people in Congress and in our government are this way. Why did Marjorie Taylor Greene not get a censure for the same thing that Al Green did get a censure for? Like, for real, if you're using DEI as an insult, just use a racial slur already. Just be done with it.
Can we please talk about how annoying it is for certain people to continue to use words that they don't even understand as slurs? First it was woke, now it's DEI. If I hear one more person use DEI as some kind of just racial slur, at this point, say it. Say the word that y'all really want to say. Say the word that y'all really want to say. Y'all keep using DEI, but we all know what you wanna say. Like, we know what you wanna say. I'm tired of it. Like, oh my god, they about to run DEI into the ground. Please, please, can we just say a word? Just say what y'all wanna say. Like, quit playing with us. Say what you wanna say.
Now, Black people have been saying this for quite some time, that certain terms are being weaponized against us, terms that may on the surface seem neutral, but are ultimately not neutral at all.
They called you, some critics, to the DEI mayor. We know how ridiculous that is.
They are, in a very real sense, slurs, but for the sake of clarity, I'll be calling them modern slurs, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. But in order to truly understand the way that modern slurs work, you have to talk about the slur of all slurs in America, the word here.
Well, then get away from the door.
This is the rise and hopefully fall of the modern slur. Let's dig in. This video is sponsored by Ground News. More on that later.
He's trying to gaslight us. First he said he doesn't want anybody in government to celebrate Black History Month. And then he says, okay, I'm going to put on an event about Black History Month and I'm going to be the speaker. There aren't any Black people, really saying anything about what's happening with him. He tried to use DEI as literally a racial slur against us, as if Black people are benefiting from anything in this country and getting anything we're not qualified for and don't have to work twice as hard for. Black people have to live in the real world. When the cops come, we're scared because we might not come out of it alive. We walk into a store, if they let us in, we're followed around. We don't get loans when we have the same credit score as everybody else because we're Black. We have to live in the real world. You can't gaslight us. We know reality when we see it. This is not real. This is a joke. That's what that is.
And personally, Tiger Woods was speaking at the podium today.
Tiger Woods said he's Kablasian.
Right. That is it. Thought he would be there. Combination more, man. Stream on.
What? So
So I'm a little confused as to when did DEI become something racist to say? And when is calling somebody incompetent or not having the right type of skills set something that's racist to say? You know, we need to really stop using that word in some way, in some sense of just, you know what? Overuse of the word. It's ridiculous. You know, it's like getting a value meal at McDonald's. 2 Big Macs, French fries with a side of racism. We got to quit doing that because it's going to have absolutely no meaning very soon. DEI is something that was made up by the same group that is saying, don't call me DEI. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll take my time to break that down in the next video.
If we're going to name the problem, let's name it correctly. What hurt you wasn't DEI. It was poor decision making, bad leadership, or bias in action. And ironically, that is exactly the kind of thing diversity, equity, and inclusion exist to prevent. DEI didn't single you out. Discriminatory practices did. And it's important to separate the two because when we mislabel discrimination as DEI, we're letting the real issue off the hook. DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, is about making sure everyone has access to opportunities, not about taking opportunities away from anyone. It exists because for centuries, as you know, as a white man, entire groups of people, Black and brown communities, women, and young people were systematically denied access to education, jobs, leadership roles, and even basic rights. And if you've ever felt like you were overlooked or devalued, imagine what it was like for Black Americans who were shut out of schools and universities well into the 20th century. Imagine being a woman in the workplace before laws protected against gender discrimination, when banks refused to give women loans without a husband's signature. Imagine being a young person today, working twice as hard to prove yourself because experience is valued over potential. These aren't just feelings. These were, and in many cases, still are realities. This isn't ancient history, as you guys like to call it. The impacts of those barriers still exist. Black and brown students are still underrepresented at top universities and face higher dropout rates due to lack of resources and support. Women still earn less than men on average for the same work. Yes, you, white man, still earn more than me. In leadership, there are still more CEOs named John than there are women CEOs total. And in rural, deep South America, where I live and I work, many institutions and workplaces remain overwhelmingly white, making it harder for minorities to break into certain spaces or feel a true sense of belonging. Let's just be real. So when people say DEI isn't needed anymore, I ask, are we really at a point where everyone has a fair shot? Statistically, as the majority race in this country, still, white men still hold most leadership roles, most government positions, and most generational wealth. If you felt excluded, I hear you. And I don't want to come off condescending, but DEI isn't the reason for that. If someone treated you unfairly and called it DEI, that wasn't DEI. That was discrimination hiding behind its name. DEI isn't about taking from one group to give to another. It's about fixing systems so that race, gender, and background aren't the deciding factors in who gets ahead. Now, If we're going to have an honest conversation about fairness, we need to be clear about what's actually happening. DEI isn't the enemy, inequality is. Sympathize that you felt harmed by your experience. That's real, and I acknowledge that, and it matters. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. But you defined it and you labeled it incorrectly.
To my MAGA friends, my Republicans, and all my Trumpsters out there, can you please define for me what DEI means? Please just in the comments, share, do whatever you want. Just explain to me what DEI means. Show me that you have some type of understanding that DEI does not stand for helping Black people. Okay. DEI means not acting with prejudice. So when it comes to hiring or filling positions, people with disabilities, different genders, different races, it helps us actually have a better workforce where people can gainfully employ themselves and avoid getting discriminated against. So to that 27-year-old white press secretary, by your own definition, I'm assuming she's just a DEI hire, correct? She's white, she's a woman. Is that why she's hired, or did she have some type of skills that actually landed her that job? I will wait. What qualifications did she have to get that job, or was it just because she's a white woman? And if we're still not fully there yet, can you please define what DEI means? You could even Google it and just copy paste, because at least then you might have a somewhat functional understanding of the term before you go out using it again.
Okay, y'all. And you know what? Start looking at some of these financial publications. Now, these companies primarily ran by white. When I started looking, I knew instantly these people were full of shit. I started looking, and I think it was the Wall Street Journal was one of the first I looked at. And I started looking at the corporations to see how they were doing, you know, and I came across, y'all, the majority of these corporations are failing. They're not doing well at all, and many of them aren't even making profit. What I found were companies that would lose $1 billion in a quarter sometimes, or they would lose. I think one time I was looking, Uber lost $800 million in a quarter. And I was like, wait a minute. Y'all claim you know how to do everything and you're the smartest and got the IQ and got this and got. How the hell are you running a company in the ground and then telling everybody else how great you are? Y'all, it's so many companies out here. And when you go look, pull up the board of directors or the CEO, always a bunch of white males. Or it might be a combination of their board of directors. They'll have a combination of some white women and white men, but it's primarily white people. Okay. And when you go look in the company, some of these companies don't even make profit at all. They lose so much money. They're not even making profit at all. And when you go out there, I'm not talking about one or two, I'm talking about hundreds, possibly thousands of corporations that are in this situation across the country. And they are white owned and white ran, and everybody at the top is white, and the company is failing. So, look, y'all, that's why I don't let them get in my face talking about some master race and they're the best. And it's a load of BS. If you work so well, none of your companies should be out here failing. If your IQ is so high, none of your companies should be failing. If you are the best workers of all time around America, no company in America where you're working should be failing then. That's the way I see it. So if it's failing, then all of those things you're trying to make everybody believe about you is false. It's false. When I start seeing that, man, When these people get in my face, I'm like, wait, this person is the best. Oh, this one got to promote some. Oh, and they'll promote a lot of people that don't even deserve the promotion. They do that too. So, y'all, I don't even take them seriously when they come in my face trying to prop themselves up as the best this and the best that, because I know the real deal. I done looked at publications and all these failing companies that can still get millions and billions of dollars and grants and loans. And so it looks like on the surface that they're doing really well. But when you start really looking at the numbers and their stocks and who's running it and the problems they're running into, and they're not doing well at all, y'all. They're not. Mm-mm. It's just that they got it set up to they win even when they fail. That's all it is, y'all. But at the end of the day, it is still a failure. It is. It's a failure. That's why you got to set it up that way, where even if the company is failing, you can still get all kinds of loans and grants and everything, because you know why you set it up that way, because you knew the majority of these companies out here would be failing. That's why you set it up that way. So don't let them get in your face with all that BS about they're great at everything and we're not qualified, we're underqualified. Don't listen to that crap. It's psychological warfare, and don't let them win at it. Don't let them win. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. I want to thank Black R Us 365 for the super sticker and your support for my channel. I deeply appreciate it. So, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. My next live is at 5:45, and Americans living abroad got an urgent travel advisory. So people living outside of the country that are Americans got a serious travel advisory, letting them know Americans outside of the country are not safe. So we will talk about that a little more at 5:45. I will see you then. Happy New Year's, my chosen people, and shalom.